Hello once again, you're welcome to the Marketplace with me, Charles Aite. Coming up this hour, in the next 30 minutes, we're going to be having the Ghana Export Promotion Authority explain to us the need for them to export ICT, especially as the demand increases. Also, total value of reported fraud cases in the banking industry witnessed a significant increase to reach 1 billion cedis last year. Is this a dent on the banking sector? We'll engage a banking and finance expert. Plus, as you already know, digital entrepreneurs will be able to export their products soon as the Ghana Export Promotion Authority Digital Center for an aggressive export program.
We are looking at our services with a keen eye this time, which hasn't been the case in the past.
Also in the bulletin, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources warns it will close down community mining sites that fail to adhere to mining regulations. We'll hear from the Deputy Minister. Now to our first story. The total value of reported fraud cases in the banking industry witnessed a significant increase last year. Data from the Bank of Ghana puts the amount at 1 billion cedis for last year, compared to 115 million in 2019. There is more in this report.
The report showed that the increase was as a result of what the Bank of Ghana describes as notable increase in high values of attempted correspondent fraud. It again showed that there was significant increase of staff involvement in fraud cases, especially when it came to suppression of cash. These staff accounted for 56% of the fraud cases and 93% of the reported cash suppression. The Bank of Ghana was worried the data recovered over the years showed a persistent trend of staff involvement in these fraud cases, despite numerous notices of caution sounded out to the banking industry in almost every fraud report issued since 2017. The total number of fraud cases reported for last year stood at 2,608 compared to 2,311 fraud cases reported in 2019. Representing almost 13% increase. Fraudulent withdrawals came up as the second most reported case after the suppression of cash. The Bank of Ghana argues that the high involvement of staff in these fraud cases can be attributed to the absence of corporate governance structures in some sections in the banking industry, resulting in the lack of accountability and transparency in their activities.
Well, we're joined via Zoom by banking and finance expert Dr. Benjamin Amoah with more on this. We're grateful that you joined us. Value of reported cases increased by 765%. Can this be described as a dent on the industry? Because per the report, about 25 million cedis has been lost as of now.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Any issue about fraud in the banking sector, especially, should create a concern for everybody in the economy. Why? Because we all do business with the bank. And so if issues about wrongdoing and deliberate wrongdoing is going on in these institutions, then irrespective of the amount involved, we still have to express some level of concern. So indeed, it is a case that we have to be worried to be hearing such news from institutions that are expected to keep our money and to keep our money safe.
We are learning that averagely more than 50% of the fraud is perpetrated by the very staff of these banks. What's your take on that?
Again, it is not surprising because the issue of fraud borders and centers around human beings. And if you employ human beings and you are not able to put in place the needed controls to check the behavior of the staff that you have employed, the chances are that some of them will get themselves involved in some of these wrongdoings. So it is not surprising that it is coming out that staff involvement in these wrongdoings are on the high. Why? Because fraud revolves around human beings. You might have all the system, but then there's somebody who must push the button for something to work. And if that individual, for one or two reasons, decided not to do that or not to put the system or the controls in place, then definitely you will have the staff getting themselves involved in some of these things. So it's not surprising that the officers of the banks are getting themselves involved in. It also brings
to fore the matter of corporate governance. Do you agree with the fact that there may be the lack of accountability and transparency in the banking activity as posited by the regulator?
Yes, we can, on the broad sense, bring in the issue of corporate governance. But then the issue of fraud, and especially what is being reported by BOG, has got to do with more of the operational side of the bank. And that has got to do with the weakness in the internal control system that these institutions may have set up. The controls are supposed to check the behavior of the officers of the bank. And if these internal control systems are lax, then you will have the officers of the bank getting themselves into some of these wrong behavior. So yes, there is corporate governance as the big thing, but then if you want to deal directly with it now, they have to look more into the internal control system that these banks have and how effective these internal control systems are performing as expected.
But how do we measure the impacts on customers, especially when it's likely that these costs could be passed on to them?
In many instances, unless it can be proven that the customer was a contributory factor in the fraud being perpetrated,
all right,
then you can then surcharge the customer for his contribution in the fraud. But then if the customer had no dealings in it, but it has got to do with the system established by the bank, a system failure, or a staff of the bank who caused that, then you cannot, under proper banking setting, extend that hand of punishment to a customer who did not contribute in any way to that fraud taking place.
Great. So moving forward, how do we address this matter in terms of solutions?
Okay. Now, banking is becoming more of open banking now, where third-party service providers are now getting into the mainstream banking system infrastructure to provide some level of service or support. Now, what is happening is that if you have third parties also contributing to the service delivery, they don't just tackle it from the bank's point of view. You must as well also as a regulator look at what these third-party service providers are providing, so that when you are building the firewalls are not just to the banks, but you extend it to the third-party service providers like the fintech companies that now have direct or indirect access into the database of these banks, into the system of the banks. Right. So they're going to have an end-to-end full value chain firewalls in the system. If not, a bank will be okay by way of internal controls, but a service provider, a third-party service provider may have weak control system that these fraudsters can then use to attack the bank from their point of view. So it's about the entire ecosystem being tightened up so that the fraudsters cannot have any avenue to penetrate into the banking system.
Dr. Benjamin Amma, we're so grateful that you joined us with your input. He's a banking and finance expert helping us with his thoughts on the increase in bank fraud around the country. Now, away from that to export-based stories, the Ghana Asset Promotion Authority has partnered the Accra Digital Center to upskill competitiveness of entrepreneurs in the information and tech space. Today, both parties began an IT exhibition where the Chief Executive of GEPA, Dr. ASABEA, spoke to me on some interventions to make their market appealing.
So GEPA's mandate to promote non-traditional exports on the international market includes services, and in the past we haven't taken any particular look at how and where to market our services. But for the past 2 years we've looked at our services, which includes hospitality, which includes health, education, and everything in between, and we've decided that it is about time to take a keen interest in promoting our services, because other countries just depend on services and they don't even have other products like we have. So sometimes I think we are spoiled for choice and then we ignore other areas, but services have become very important to us now as a country, and that is why, as part of us promoting services, we've done other areas. We are looking at the IT, and we thought the best thing to do is to collaborate with any agency that is in that space. So we called on the Ministry of Communications agency, the Accra Digital Center, and we talked to them, and they shared the same view with us, and so we decided why not now work together to promote what we have. Yes, and that's why you see this fair.
Great. We do know about the National Export Development Strategy, which has also embodied specific targets for the net exports of goods and services. But with this, the spec of the IT center, now we have Twitter coming on board, we have a Google AI center in Accra, in Ghana. How do you leverage on this to improve the export margins of IT services?
Everything that they offer helps our exporters. So we are game. And that's why we have our Impact Hub, which is, IT enabled for everybody to come and take advantage of it. So we are working with all of these players in the industry. Yeah.
Finally, we just ended the Sound Arts exhibition. I mean, it's about ending this week, I believe, or it's already ended.
It's still Sunday.
Exactly. So it's going to be ending this week. What were the expectations in the fine arts and crafts industry? You talked about the fact that we're losing so much money from this untapped industry. But now that we've had the Sound Art and several artists are coming on board, what expectations are there for the long term?
We are expecting that we will be able to expose them to the world. I mean, most of them have been just plying their trade here, but now it used to be that the eye on art was on China and Asia as a whole, but now it's on Africa and it's on Ghana, because a couple of our artists have been able to break that jinx out there to go into places like Hollywood and sell their art at such huge amounts. So we are trying to, project those that are here to the world, that we have more of those they saw out there still in Ghana who can also sell their products and make more money for the country.
In 30 seconds, finally, where do we see the prospect of exporters within the African market now that we are 8 months into the continental free trade?
We are working very hard to put our best foot forward.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
To other stories now, about 90 small and medium-scale enterprises will soon benefit from a training project under the Sustaining Competitive and Responsive Enterprises core of the International Labour Organization, ILO. The program is being implemented by the Management Development and Productivity Institute with support from Invest for Jobs and the ILO. It is aimed at boosting growth and productivity of SMEs in order to create jobs. Here's more.
Those small and medium-scale enterprises in Ghana represent about 85% of businesses, largely within the private sector, and contribute about 70% of Ghana's gross domestic product. They are faced with numerous challenges like high interest rates, among others. In view of this, to promote enterprise competitiveness and sustainable jobs for SMEs, the Management Development and Productivity Institute, with support from Invest for Jobs, an initiative by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, has launched the Sustaining Competitive and Responsible Enterprises Training Program. Addressing stakeholders, team leader of Invest for Jobs, John Duty, expressed his excitement about the strong partnership with MDPI and ILO in jointly achieving the set objectives.
Ghana government signed up to this project that will create 10,000 decent jobs. 10,000. And ensure that 18,000 people have improved working conditions. These figures may sound very low, but ILO definitions on what is called a decent job makes these figures huge.
The national coordinator for the ILO in Ghana, Samuel Asiedu, explained that there is high expectations of the collaboration with the MDPI.
Had many successful development cooperation projects in Ghana and globally. So we have high expectations of this collaboration with MDPI. We believe the MDPI will show leadership and work seamlessly with other implementing partners. And I mentioned them earlier: Score Trading Solutions Ghana, Secondary Takrady Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and Hoku Consult, to implement this project successfully.
The project, when completed, will also equip the SMEs to meet international requirements.
Now, the Ghana Tourism Authority has initiated its domestic tourism agenda through the deployment of roofless coaches. Now, these coaches will serve as transport to tourist sites in Accra to explore some historic sites in the regional capital. It comes as Ghana lost $3 billion to COVID-19, which locked away tourists from reveling in Ghana. Jones Aruna Nelson is the head of PR for the GTA.
It's part of the promotion that we started. So in terms of domestic tourism, we are encouraging Ghanaians to travel, to take a tour, take a holiday. You realize that the average Ghanaian hardly travels except attending funerals or going for parties and anniversaries. So what we want to achieve is this. One of the ways that we are using to promote domestic tour is city tour. So as we embark on this city tour, we are saying that at least in the region that you live in, you need to know about one or two attractions. So as we go around the historical and cultural places as well as iconic structures in the metropolis, we are telling our fellow Ghanaians that, look, we have these monuments, very important for you to know. And when you know, you can also educate your other colleagues, and then we'll all come on board. Of course, this has come as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the tourism industry, very hard. And the numbers for international, figures, it dwindled if you look at 2019 to 2020. So we are saying that the way forward is domestic tourism. Of course, if you go to other countries like Asia and the rest, you realize that domestic tourism is their backbone.
All right. So, what remains the routes that you're going to be applying this morning? Which routes are you going to be applying?
Sure. We have an approved route. So from here at the Accra Tourist Information Center, we'll go through Kentakita, you are exchange here, through the police headquarters, down, then we'll go through Oxford Street. From there, we hit Osu Presby, then we meander our way through the Stadium Road, then we go through Lotteries, Bank of Ghana, Wesley Church, down there, and then we meander our way as well to fire service through Jamestown. Of course, when we get to Jamestown, there are exciting scenes, historical and cultural places that we'll have to visit. So at Jamestown, we'll do a stopover and do a tour of the Jamestown. We have site guides on board. And then we'll pass through the art center. Briefly, we'll drive through we'll come back to Mokola, the law school area, of which we'll do we'll be going slowly for people to attract. We also attract them. We tell them about the fact that, look, the city tour is very, very interesting and that you need to be on board. And then from there, we'll come straight back to Attic. Yeah.
You're still watching The Marketplace. We'll go for a short break, but still ahead in the bulletin, the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources warns it will close down community mining sites that fail to adhere to mining regulations. We'll hear from the Deputy Minister.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
And welcome back. Government will not hesitate closing down community mining sites that fail to adhere to mining regulations. That's according to the Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, George Mirikuduka. A visit to some sites revealed that some licensed community miners are yet to put in place structures and safety precautions despite commencement of gold extraction. Nana Aljima has more in this report.
The community mining system is set up as alternative livelihood for illegal miners following renewed efforts in fighting galamsey. It is said to be a miniature of large-scale mining firms. Under the system, the government, as owner of the gold deposits, invest in the mine through interested business individuals. Locals with interest in mining are then registered and authorized to mine their allotted concessions under certain safe conditions. Under this operation, office structures, first aid facilities, washrooms, among others, are to be constructed for miners. Mr. Duka warns refusal of miners to comply with all the regulations could result in operational shutdown.
In your moyen wahano a year well accepted by the commission. And in a month's time we will come back and ensure whether or not you're following all the protocols in mining. And we are serious about this. Yes, we've seen the concession, but I'm not happy about the environment. So let's put the environment in order. Thank you very much.
He spoke at a ceremony to inaugurate the community mining site at Edukrom in the AFUA Southeast District. This community mining is expected to help provide jobs and reduce illegal mining in forest areas. Joseph Ajamandapa is District Chief Executive. As a representative of the President, I am supposed to create jobs for the youth. That is why we formed an association of chiefs and queen mothers to find a way of achieving that. Our timber in this area is exhausted and not all the youth are interested in farming. Farming is not as lucrative as it used to be, so we have to take steps to activate this mine.
The Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation, Nana ASARE Bonsu, has called for more investment in renewable energy since its residue will aim firms in the agri sector to compete in the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to him, leftovers from non-conventional use of renewable energy can be used as compost to boost agri production. He was speaking at the Private Sector Climate Change Investment Forum in Accra.
Research conducted by the Ghana Statistical Service shows that only 1 out of 4 agribusinesses in Ghana are aware of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive of Private Enterprises Federation, Nana ASARE Bonsu, says investing in renewable energy will empower agri firms to compete in AFTA. According to him, residue from renewable energy can be transformed into compost to boost production.
As companies seek to expand their operations through industrialization, they require more sustainable and reliable power at competitive pricing. The way to go is the use of non-conventional renewable energy, such as biomass, solar energy, wind energy, hydro, and others. These sources of energy are cheaper, environmentally friendly, sustainable, and supportive of green climate initiatives. These energy sources and their residual raw materials like compost will boost agriculture productivity, create jobs, especially for the youth and women, increase revenue for the private sector players, and reduce the negative ecological impact as a result of human activities. With cheaper energy and the consequential benefit from the waste that we generate from industries, we can add value to agricultural products, thereby helping our agribusinesses to compete well in the arena of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Head of Climate and Economic Strategy and Research Division at the Ministry of Finance, Adjoa Feku, disclosed that $107 million have been approved to invest in climate in Ghana.
Ghana, since joining the GCF, has submitted about 18 proposals, both some from the private sector and the public sector as well. Out of the 18 proposals, 9 has been approved, and the 9 still awaiting approval. So in total, we have received about $107 million in the approval.
And that'll be it for Marketplace. I'm Charles Aite. For more news, to log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Many thanks again for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.